What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Kind of Funny podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside Nick Scarpino, Tim Gettys, Andy Cortez, and our guest, Christian Spicer. Hello, Christian.
Hello, Greg. Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here. Also, off the bat, I don't know what dinosaur sheets look like if you're a bad parent, but if you're a good parent, they look like goddamn dinosaurs.
Yeah, that's right.
There we go. There we go. I don't see any feathers on those things. No. That's fantastic.
A lot of people say meet in the middle, and I say on some issues, yes. But on do dinosaurs have feathers, the hill we will die, all right? If you're in the feather camp, take your science and your textbooks and get out of here, all right?
If you're one of my kids sleeping at my house, you're sleeping on goddamn regular dinosaur sheets.
Yeah.
Hell,
yes.
There's no birds involved. There's no cross-species type bullshit. Greg, I do want to point out that we had a lot of people coming after us on Twitter saying, like, you are absolutely wrong about the dinosaur stuff. Here's the thing. I don't care that I'm wrong, all right? It's my side, all right? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it from you.
Yeah. A lot of people, they don't want to get the joke sometimes, Andy. They want to get all offended. And here's what I'll always say to those people. I'm not listening to your podcast. You're listening to mine. So, you know what I mean?
So true.
Suck it, you idiot.
I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's my problem with you, Christian, is you do too much. Like usually somebody comes on, it's an easy way to introduce them, right? But even your Twitter bio, official Last of Us podcast, DLC podcast, two Billboard charting stand-up albums, Consequences, my new comic book on Kickstarter now. Pick a lane, sir.
Diversifying his
lane.
bonds. Yeah.
The lane, I guess, is storytelling, which is the cheesy answer. Like that's been the through line for everything. It's telling stories and connecting with people. Like what you all do, and this past year especially, like how much connection and human interaction Kind of Funny provides to people. Like that's the through line, and that's something that I've been trying to do across all of these things. Is I love video games, I love talking with people and connecting with people, and then writing this comic book. On the Kickstarter, there's a picture of me when I was a little guy getting X-Men 1 signed by Jim Lee. Like comic books have been the thing for my life, like so much. And I feel like for all of us, it's such an important part of who we are. And so when the opportunity came, I guess it was end of 2019 to start working on this book, I was like, yeah, you mean talented people want to make this with me?
So I want to get to all that, and I love that on the Kickstarter with the Jim Lee thing. Not only do you have the photo of the shirt getting signed, you then have a photo now as an adult wearing the shirt.
That's awesome.
That was full circle right there. I appreciated that. I like, because usually you have it, so let's sign the kid version of the shirt. You're like, no, I want to sign an adult version of the shirt.
Planning long term.
You all talked about it. When we were growing up, there was only one thing, right? It was like this Ghostbusters toy, or you saw this Superman shirt or this Wolverine shirt, and it was a double XL. That was the one. You were buying it.
Now, in my case, I needed the double XL, but that's not what I did.
And you wore it swimming too.
Yeah, I really
7-year-old. Yeah.
Hide the shame, Nick. Hide the shame.
Oh God, still do.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get off the way. Let's hop away. This is the Kind of Funny podcast. If you didn't know, each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather around these microphones, each coming with their own bullshit to bullshit around about. We do it twice a week now. Oftentimes we have guests like Christian, and we're having a great time. If you're having a great time, head over to patreon.com/kindoffunny, where you can toss us a few bucks, and you can be part of the show with your questions, comments, concerns. You can be part of the show. You can watch it live, just like Joe is, just like Corey is, just like Joshy G is, and Joshy G was starting shit on Kind of Funny Games Daily today, but we won't call him out on it right now. All right, Andy? I see you getting wide-eyed. Like Joshy G did it? Yeah, Joshy G did it.
I mean, it's a range of emotions right now, Greg. First off, I'm shocked that 15 minutes into the podcast, you did the intro. Like, I lost a lot of money on that bet right
For the
there.
record, no, I did it 4 minutes in. You're looking at the overall thing, not the broadcast time. You're all right? So just a heads up. I'm record timing this right now. So again, everybody who wants their feathers on their dinosaurs and everybody who was betting 30 minutes this time, get out of here. Yeah. Tristometry says 6:14, a new record. So there you go. I'm on fire today, everybody. Don't worry about it. Of course, on patreon.com/kindoffunny, you support us. We support you, and you get a bunch of cool exclusive content. However, if you have no bucks to toss our way, no big deal. The show goes up twice a week. YouTube.com/kindoffunny, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe. Like I just said, twice a week. I'm not going to keep saying twice a week, but twice a week. Housekeeping for you. It's a huge week over here, especially on youtube.com/kindafunny. Not only are we putting up the first part of DCEU in review, the Snyder Cut, we also have Falcon and the Winter Soldier reactions going up on Friday as well. Yeah. There's so much going on, Andy. You know, how are you going to pencil all of it in around Valorant?
Oh man. My wallet is hurting from Valorant. Holy
shit. Thank you to our Patreon producers, at Denanobiologist, aka Mick Abramson, at Denanobiologist, aka Mick Abramson, DJ Kento, Devin Carter, Steve Powers, Ryan Trimble, Kieran O'Donnell, Joy, aka Joseph O'Yusef, Aaron Horan, Bill Abui, Julian the Gluten Free Gamer, Danny Rodriguez, and Rachel Gray. Today we're brought to you by BetterHelp and Babbel. But I'll tell you about that later. For now, Christian, here's the thing. We ran through everything you do. But if you were to run into somebody at a party and they have no idea who you are, how do you're going to describe yourself as a storyteller? That's where you begin. Like, what's your day job? What do you do all day long?
I would say at a party, I would say I'm a writer. That's what I would say. I've been fortunate to write on some TV, a bunch of stuff people haven't seen, which is how a lot of my profession as a TV writer goes, where it doesn't make it onto TV.
Always fun.
I do want to point out really, really quick, Christian, that if I were at a party and you told me you were a storyteller, I would have reacted the way Woody Harrelson did in True Detective when Russ Cole McConaughey says, I don't sleep. I don't dream. I don't sleep. I just dream. And they cut to Woody Harrelson. He's just like, Jesus Christ. Like, I would have, if I was like, well, what do you do? I'm a storyteller. I've been like,
it's like, oh, here we go.
Well, Andy, I'm glad you asked. I weaved
So then, go ahead. No, please continue.
That's the short answer. And then the day to day, it's varied. You know, I've been fortunate to write on shows, and that's staffed in a room. The most recent thing that I didn't talk about much on DLC or anywhere, but I worked for a mobile game company for a little over 3 years, and I was bringing a couple of their games up to launch and creating the worlds and building out the characters and defining those universes, kind of getting the show Bible, so to speak, or the game Bible ready for those worlds to then hand it off, and the game can run as a live service game forever. So some of the stuff that, like, a lot of these games that people listening probably have more experience with, like Valorant's knocking out of the park right now. Call of Duty's knocking out of the park right now. Fortnite, where you build this world, you build the characters that live in it, and then it can kind of play forever, right? As long as you stay true to those values you define. So it's doing a lot of that. And then also, it's just surviving this fucking pandemic.
Sure.
Like that's
a full-time job.
Day to day. Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
So where does the idea for the comic book come in? Of course, we're talking about Consequences, your new comic book. Kickstarter's up right now. You can go to kck.st/3 lowercase. No, I'm kidding around. You can go to kindafunny.com/Christian to go straight to it to check it out right now.
Wow.
I got you sent us advanced copies on the old PDFs there. I got to read it. It's beautiful. I hate that it's only one issue because it is very much. I get to the end, I'm like, oh man, tell me more.
Well, thank you. Yeah, there's more story to tell, but my hope is that this first issue has that complete narrative arc, much like John Wick or the first Matrix. Clearly, there's more, and you want to know it. But if that's all you got, you kind of see what Kara's life is about. It's kind of the hope and pitch for this.
Lofty goals there. Some of the coolest things in the world. Yeah, I'm just trying to do John Wick. No big deal.
Maybe you've seen John Wick, Driver, Baby Driver. You know, just small.
So what kind of storytelling you're doing? Lord of the Rings, Star Wars type things.
I wanted to start small, so I'm really going after a Game of Thrones approach. Just this very focused story.
You do like a very top level story.
Yeah, it's the book has just been a dream to do in terms of like writing and the things. And I think part of it was spun out of having things not go and spending a year or two on this show you really believe in. And then, it has a penalty attached to it. So it seems like the studio is really going to make it. And then they pay you the penalty and they still don't make it. And so I wanted to just put something out into the world that I could make and put out. And then it became very scary putting this thing out there, because as you mentioned, it's like if you do know me, you don't know me necessarily as writing a comic book or genre, because a lot of that stuff hasn't made it out for various reasons. Some has, but not a lot. So it was this very scary moment of like publish and put this Kickstarter out. But it's been humbling, and people seem receptive to it, and hopefully there's more to tell. And I can convince Gary to write a pass on Kara years down the line or something like that too. That's
you
the
won't
goal.
be able to afford them. You won't be able to
Or maybe
afford
just
them.
like the
Years.
intro, the notes, like the intro sort of. Hi, I'm Gary Whitta. He's going to talk about himself the whole time.
Exactly. When I was writing Rogue One, I was thinking comics are all right.
I'll take it. I will take it easily. Easy.
Now, when you have the writing down, how do artists approach you? How does the rest of the process sort of find itself?
Yeah, so I definitely learned a lot about comics because I've been writing my whole life, but not writing to that type for a while. Screenplay, it's final draft, or there's format for it, right? Comics still, even with the major publishers, there's differences in how folks write. Some people just write freehand on a page and then the artist runs with it. Other people get very detailed and it looks more like a feature screenplay. For me, putting this thing together, I knew what I wanted it to be. I had a very clear vision for fight choreography and how I wanted things to look. So then I was reaching out to folks. I was like, I've made this thing. I really believe in it. I love your art. Eduardo Mello is the illustrator on this, and I loved things that he's done. So when I reached out to him, I was like, man, I would love for you to do this. Let's find a way to make it happen. He's like, send me the script. And that was the first like imposter syndrome moment. Like
hovering on the send button with the attachment. You're like,
you're going to hate it. Like the next email's like, don't worry, you hate it. It's not going to work out anyway.
You just exit out and block him immediately. No, I can't do it.
Never talk to him again.
But it's that. Lauren Affey's the colorist who did Spider-Gwen, Five Ghosts, a bunch of other great things. Taylor Esposito, who did Action Comics. Like, among all the incredible books he's lettered, it's like, again, it's like a dream. It's a dream come true. Corey Schmitz did the logo design. Who's done? He's the best.
He's done every logo ever.
So
I go to his website just to be jealous,
just to feel something.
Like, yeah, because everything he does. Whenever a new game is coming out, I'll be like, I bet you that's a Corey joint. And sure enough,
can you bring this up?
It's Ghost of Tsushima. It's Valorant. It's Stray now. It's
sorry. Bring that up again real quick. This goes back to what Chris was saying.
Oh wow, Corey did a great job.
He did Control. Fuck,
you
dope.
get the t-shirts that just like whatever's available. My brother, this was his favorite t-shirt growing up that he had. It's a fucking ugly Hawaiian print Spider-Man shirt with the yellow Spider-Man on it. Like it makes no sense.
It's like a misprint.
Yeah, it was like we bought it in Chinatown. It was just like
that center looks
legal.
like it looks like the Scarlet Spider like hoodie he wears, the cutoff or whatever. So that's pretty dope. But yeah, the tuberculosis Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
That was bad. What I was asking is, can you bring up the Corey Schmidt page they're talking about?
Dude, he's dope.
Oh, I thought you were
really
going to send me
good.
the link. No?
It's CoreySchmitz.com. I can.
I'll send it to you. I'll drop it in.
Thank you.
We can keep filibustering while we bring up Corey Schmitz and we talk about this comic book.
It's beautiful. Again, it was like, I had to like zoom my camera in so he doesn't see all of his stuff I have around me.
Try
the Polygon logo. I love the Polygon logo. Fuck, he did really good shit.
It's analog, 8-bit-o.
It's graphic design goals. Like, and I've been looking at this dude's work since like 2013, 2014, and it just keeps. I think the first time I heard of him was this band I really like, Anamanaguchi. They are very 8-bit kind of Nintendo sounds, pop punk, and he did one of their kind of first logos, I think, for one of their earlier albums, and I was like, God damn, this is so cool. And then everything the dude does just is instant gold. But for a while, I think he was like exclusive to Sony, or he does a lot of Sony's first party things, I believe.
Yeah, there's a lot of Sony.
Either way,
he's like the fucking
cool.
John Williams of logos.
Yeah, dude.
And now my little comic, which is
that's so rad.
So fucking sick. So cool.
Well, that's one of the things about it, right? Is like, we've had plenty of friends make comics and send stuff over, and it's, as somebody who reads so many comics, I think there's that you get somebody's comic, you get somebody's PDF, and you open it up, and I'm not throwing shade at all, I swear, but you open it up, you're like, oh yeah, clearly this is a passion project, an independent thing, right? Like it's somebody who's doing this as a passion thing with an artist who's a passion thing, and you see like, okay, cool, like there's obviously things that can be tweaked and changed and tightened up. When I opened yours up not knowing anything and haven't read it, I really was caught off guard by how good it looks, Because it looks, and I don't mean to insult anybody else, it looks like a real comic. And obviously when you have Eduardo on there, right, is somebody who has done so much stuff, whether it be for Marvel, whether it be for DC, that's going to shine through. But like it goes so much further, right, with you're talking about, you know how you wanted it to look, so you had it written like to look like a comic book. His pencils, obviously the art, obviously text and stuff that goes through there. It's really impressive.
Eduardo, what's the last name?
Eduardo Mello, Mello.
I'm a comics noob. Like I did, unlike these three guys, well, mostly Greg and Tim, who were the ones that read a lot of comics growing up. I just was not exposed to that lifestyle at all. Just because I remember seeing like my first comic book shop, be like, oh wow, these are real. I thought they were just in the movies. Mellow.
You can pull up his Instagram, which it shows some of his other pencils and like Fantasy Flight games and Marvel. It's like, again, talking to him, and I was like, I'm holding the 5-minute stories book you did that my kids read every. Whoa! Like this is the best. It's incredible. Speaking of incredible, Greg, and I'm not just blowing smoke. Like you told me to save it for the show, so I'm going to save it.
Please.
You've talked about it some, but I want that deep dive on Joker, man. Like you talk about it in passing. Like you and Gary, you wrote a murderer's row of every. Did you just parade people? I don't want to spoil the story because it's great if you haven't read it.
It's been out this long. If you haven't read the Joker 80th anniversary, you're not a real fan, and I want you to pull the car over right now, throw the keys in the river, and walk away.
And then
just
get
drive
your
the car
iPad
to a
and
fucking tree. Drive it into a tree.
No, Nick, Nick.
No, but you're out of the
That's
car. You left it in drive. You left it in drive,
sure.
Nick.
It slowly rolled into a tree. I got it.
But first, get Comixology and download Joker.
Yeah. Get both books.
Mm-hmm. You just paraded characters on stage just so you could say you wrote for all of them, right? It was like, can we get Wonder Woman out there?
1,000%. That was the idea. From the initial meeting Gary and I had, we took a long breakfast one day when you could still go places. And yeah, it was that idea of like, all right, cool. Like when we honed in on the idea, it's like, well, this is our one chance to do this. So get everybody in there. You're already writing a Joker story. I want Superman in there. I want Lois Lane in there. Gary wanted to get the villains in there and have all these different references and Mr. Freeze and keep going that way. Yeah, it was our chance. We went for it.
It's so good. It's that whole book's great, and I love your story. Like, how much fighting was there? Because that's stuff. Again, I want to die. Again, I can shut
between me and Gary.
Just the creative process to get this thing off the ground. Like,
dude, there was no conflict. It was the most. It was amazing. Because it was like for the way it worked is that it was. Yeah, our January 5th stream last year. Right, that checks out. Where Gary came by and we were doing the 24-hour thing or the 12-hour thing, and this would have been 2020. And he walked in. And I was off camera in the back chilling out for a second. He's like, "Hey," so I just had a call with DC, and I turned around, I'm like, "All right," like because Gary loves to rub his achievements in my face all the time with what he's doing, and every time he gets to go live one of my dreams, you know what I mean?
I'm a Ghostbuster.
Right, exactly.
He's like, hey, Greg, I'm going to be Superman in the next movie.
How? Yeah, but he
go in a different direction with it.
Got off a call with DC, right? And they want me to write. They're doing this Joker anthology. They'd like me to write a story, and I was like, that's amazing. And he's like, yeah, like I don't know DC like you know DC. Do you want to write it with me? And I was just like so floored by it. You know what I mean? Because like. You talk about all the time of tossing the ladder back down. You know what I mean? When you've gone somewhere and you've made it. And like, now Gary, of course, I mean, he wrote the Star Wars comics. He has his own book, Oliver. Like he's done all these different mountains he's climbed, right? And so for him to know how much I've wanted to do that, but like it's not in my wheelhouse in terms of like my passion, which I'm sure we'll eventually talk about. And I've talked about before of like, I've pitched my Superman book. I literally have people at DC now that know me. And you'd like, if I wanted to, I'm sure I could bust my ass and get in front of them and do stuff. But it's like, in my off time, I want to play games so I can talk about games. You know what I mean? And like that's always the number one priority. So it's always this, I don't have that draw in me of every day I wake up and I'm like, I gotta write, I gotta do that. And I find that the people who are gonna make it and do this do it that way. Whereas if I can get like the occasional opportunity for something like that, I do it. I digress. So yeah, we booked a meeting and we went to a lunch out at Outerlands in the Sunset, and we sat there for like 3 hours. It must have been, and it was like. We had just a pitch session where we went around. There was a couple of different ideas we didn't investigate, and there were some ground rules from DC of like, don't do movie stuff. And so we were trying to get around that to make references to stuff. And he's like, no, let's not do it. And so it was eventually we honed in on it's a Joker book. Like, what could you do differently with him? And it was like, well, what if he actually killed Batman? Like, it's something that's happened before, obviously, but in I forget how many pages it was, 9 pages we had, to go through of like, what would that story look like? And it was really big on both ends at one point, and I was like, no, we got to cut this down and we got to start here and we got to go through that. And he got that. And it was going back and forth and pitching lines and going through this thing. And, there was never any, again, me and Gary have such a fun relationship because we are such close friends. But like there was at any moment, I think he could have easily been like, well, no, this is my book. Or no, like I know more about writing than you, but he never did that. And he always took there was one part I remember where, Gary and I have argued on shows about it where we have different interpretations of Superman, where Gary takes very much, he's an alien, he's Kryptonian, and I'm very much, he's from Smallville, he's a man who has these amazing powers. And there was a line in Gary's initial draft where when they interview Superman about Batman, he refers to him as the best, I think, human he ever knew. And I was like, no, you got to change that. Like, that's not, like, I understand this is like the critical thing, but like Clark would never call someone a human. He would never make and Gary's like, all right, cool, and did. Like, we could have had a huge debate about Superman.
Greg would have punched Gary in the fucking face.
Like, I'm off the project, erase my name from the script. Goodbye. Gary said, you didn't write anything. You just talked to me. But yeah, we went around there, and then we were lucky enough to get in front of the artist who was super down to send us stuff. And that was the other thing too of like, for me being such a DC super fan, God, why is the artist name escaping me right now? That's gonna drive me crazy.
I can look it up.
Yeah, can you look it up for me, Andy?
My iPad.
I'm hung up on Clayman, and it was not Clayman. But it was the idea that for as much nerdiness, Gary wanted me to come in with DC so I could give him references, or like we were trying to pull from big moments from
Dan Mora.
Yep, there you go. Thank you very much, Dan Mora. I apologize. We had so many different things we wanted to pull from and try to get in there as Easter eggs in the script, right? But then to have Dan, who's a huge fan, go in there and read it and get what we were doing, and then go into like when Alfred's being interviewed in the Batcave and Lois is there, like the amount of Batmobiles that are in the background and all these different things that are just layered in there. And like even when Joker's there, like I think Gary talked about the bomb he's wearing being Smilex. He wanted that really bad, but then the references behind him and around him are like just like throwaway lines. I think some people are dressed as Batman. He's got like he's got 60s Batman there. He's got all these different things there. People celebrating Batman. I thought it was awesome.
That's why I love a good anthology book, because like Consequences, for folks that don't know it, I'm going for that John Wick with moral ambiguity. So it's a big fight like that. That's what this first book is, and that's what it wants to revel in. And it took me 30 pages to do it. And I love a good anthology book. And what I love, and they're not all great, and not to just blow smoke, I'm sure there are some better than your Joker story, Greg. But what is so great about it in the tight storytelling, because it was nine pages, and all of the ones and oftentimes in Future State now on DC, some of my favorite part of those books are the back story, the second story, because it is that tight, here's 8 pages on Red Hood, we're going to make it count. It's just mastercraft. And what I love about comics and films and movies are great too, but because it is that comic, I can sit and look at that panel of Joker and notice all that stuff. I don't need to pause, Netflix and zoom in. I can sit there and examine all of that stuff. And that to me is the beauty of the comics medium, where you get that visual storytelling, but you can sit there and pore over it if you want, or I can be done with your book in 2 minutes, and be on with my day.
Well, nice. Yeah, you nail so many different things there, right? That I resonate with me of like the anthology book, Joker notwithstanding, right? Like, Action 1000, Detective 1000, when they hit up these things for Valentine's Day specials and they go and get a bunch of different people and put them together on one book, including the Love is Love one that I really, really dug. Those are my favorite comics DC puts out, because it's exactly what you're saying, where it is, first off, like, is DC ever going to offer me and Gary like the chance to go write an ongoing Superman or Batman book? I hope so. Andy's my agent. Call Andy. But the fact that they bring in all sorts of different people with different perspectives that aren't necessarily.
You want to pay Greg $10 an hour? Deal. Sounds good.
You're not all wrong.
He's really only worth $8 an hour.
Write that comic.
Steal.
Yeah, exactly. But it was, they do so much interesting stuff there, and I always say those are such a great jumping on point for people who want to read comics, because it is usually like, cool. It's don't get into the weeds of what Batman and what universe we're in. It's Batman and it's Catwoman, and you go with it because you know enough to go off of that and have your story actually count.
Well, I think what's coolest about those type of stories, and this is also true about like short films, you see this a lot with like horror movies, that a movie's made because a short film was made first, and the short film is almost always better than the full thing, because it's just the entire thing is just the idea.
Yeah, it's
and
the raw
there's
idea
nothing
of it,
cooler
yeah.
than the idea. It's the setup. You know what I mean? Like you almost don't even need to answer everything. It's just have a nice kind of setup and presentation for something that people would be interested in. Because then your mind fills in all the gaps of what happens next and all that. So like that's what makes the Joker story cool, is that it was kind of allowed to just be this moment that you're filling in all the other stuff. But because it's part of an anthology book, like you're already kind of learning the language of knowing you're going to need to do that for each thing. It reminds me a lot of even like a Black Mirror or a Twilight Zone. It's like every single one of those episodes works because we know how to watch it as a whole, where we understand it's an episode by episode thing that we're getting into, and like rules reset for each one, but we know there's always going to be rules. It's cool stuff.
You're going to love the short film I'm making. It's called A 31-Year-Old Starts Skateboarding with a Backwards Hat. And it is just the idea.
It's going to be hip with the kids, I'm telling you.
I got a great sequel for you. It's called And Starts DJing.
Damn. That's good.
So, Christian, what's the plan for Consequences? Because again, at kindoffunny.com/Christian, you're kickstarting the first issue. Like, what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, I put up, because I did want the focus of the Kickstarter to be this book, but I guess this past weekend I did put up a stretch goal of like, hey, if it hits 24K, you get a second issue. Like there's a map, there's a plan for more stories with her. And I'd love to tell them. Part of the plan for her I can't talk about yet.
Sure, that's always tough, right? Well, that's the thing. Even I don't know how much you've talked about the book in general, because it is that thing of what you talk about with that moral ambiguity. And like when it's going, you start projecting on as a reader, I'm projecting onto it who these people are. And so when you get to the final couple panels, right, and there's a flip of the coat, I was like, oh, okay.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I can zoom out a little bit, and it is like you mentioned. I was fortunate to work with Sony and Naughty Dog and the folks at Spoke Media to do the official Last of Us podcast. And if you know me, you know I love that world. I love what Neil and everybody at Naughty Dog built for The Last of Us. And I love that at the end of that game, the first game, I'll leave the second game out of it because people are still waiting to play it. I think they shouldn't, but they might be waiting for a PS5 patch, Neil. A PS5.
Where's it at, Neil?
Hey, Neil, what are you doing, Neil? What are you doing, man? Come on.
Where's
I've been itching to replay it, man. Give it to us.
Look, one of two options: a PS5 patch, or I'm a clicker on the HBO show. Like those are the choices.
Okay.
But the way that game ends, again, it's a story that ends. Clearly, there's more for Joel and Ellie at the end of part one. But you also you still like those characters, but they're not necessarily good people, which I find fascinating. I love stories like that. And so with Consequences, it is, again, using shorthand, because comics are brief. Even at 30 pages, a 30-page comic is not an hour TV show. And it's creating this world where you set expectations up for who these characters are, who it's about Cara Diol and her life as a mercenary, and she wishes it ex-mercenary, but life pulls you back in, and how we first meet her. The opening panel of how you first meet her and see her, my hope is that the reader makes assumptions. And so I'm using a lot of shorthand for how I set up to create these characters for you, the reader, to make assumptions about them that hopefully are paid off in the back half of that issue. And then with the final frames kind of revealing who she really is. And then my hope, like not even with second issues, my honest to God hope for the book is that folks put it on their shelf and then the next day are still thinking about it, like wondering who Cara is, should they like her, do they like her, and what does that mean for her world? Because I find stories like that to be very compelling and inspiring, much the way of does Leo's does his ring fall over in Inception? Like there's that kind of element to it, but it's like, oh, damn, Joel's alive at the end of The Last of Us Part 1. Is that good for this world? Are we better because of it? Ellie's life better because of it. But does she want that life? And I love stuff like that. So I hope people chew on it and talk about it. And then I hope the other stuff that I'm, working on get made so we can talk about those later.
So I'm loving all this. I want to actually go back to the TV stuff that didn't end up happening. Did it not happen because of COVID, or did it not happen because that's Hollywood?
Yeah, that's Hollywood. COVID stuff hasn't affected anything that I've worked on personally recently. I've had a few things that looked like they were
COVID if you want.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh, it's COVID. Thanks, Andy. Yeah, we were. They shut us down. Tom Cruise
Martin
yelled at the crew.
Scorsese loved everything I wrote, but it was COVID.
Yeah. No, there's a lot. Maybe not everyone. Some people have the Midas touch, but there's a lot of stuff that goes really far. In I was a part of a thing that we even shot the pilot, and it didn't fit that. That year's release didn't make it to upfronts, and it's part of the process. And I'm not trying to just be a glass half full, but that really is part of the process. And it's never overnight. And the thing you want to go doesn't happen when you want it to happen. And then 10 years later, you get to hopefully build an empire out of everything you learned,
You say it's part of the process, though, but how much does it suck? How much does it suck when it all goes wrong?
Well, I mean, I can use a recent. So I'll be vague on this. There was a thing that I really wanted.
You don't have to be vague. Nobody's listening.
No, go ahead and tell us. You wanted to write that new Superman reboot. I understand.
Ooh, that looks good. No, Batgirl. Batgirl's what I want. Like to put it out into the universe. Batgirl's my favorite, and then I'll tell the stupid story of the thing that punched me in the dick real hard. To me, and there's a few others, but Batgirl is fascinating because she chose this life. There's the stories of Batman and his parents are killed, so he has to do this thing to deal with the grief. There's Superman who's jettisoned onto this planet and discovers he has powers. Spider-Man, great power, great responsibility. Daredevil avenging his father. Like all of these people kind of have this catalyst type moment. And there's been some of that in retelling of early Batgirl stories, but Batgirl was a kid who watched her dad risk his life every day as a cop and saw the insurmountable odds that GCPD were fighting. And she saw this other world getting shit done. And Barbara trained, put on the cowl, rose above everybody's expectations of what they thought she could be as a young girl in this world, and overcame insurmountable odds to become, in my opinion, one of the best adjusted adult superheroes. And to me, that's such a compelling story, choosing this hard life where, if you want to not unretcon it, where she's, shot by the Joker and still not regretting that life choice she made to become this thing. I love Barbara.
And also still throwing herself into it, right, as Oracle, where, okay, I can't be Batgirl anymore, but I can still be invaluable in the field. Yeah,
put my life on the line. The thing that hit me real hard, there was a thing I really wanted. It was a writing gig I really wanted. And I got into the process with the other folks. Everything seemed to be going really well. I had the moment in the shower where I pictured like the production hoodie in my closet. You know what I mean? I was like, I know right where it's going to go. It's going to be so good. Everything. I wrote some stuff. I started putting together decks and samples, and I sent them over, and everything was so happy. And I was like, this is going to be it, baby. This is it. And then 2 days later, I was having a really good day. Other very good things were happening in my day. And I get an email, and I'm like, hell yeah, here it is. Boom. Open the email, and it's like, hey, we're not going to do it. And I was like, mother. So it sucks, Greg. I mean, you have to have all experienced that. You have to have all.
Can we say that we would have marveled to see you in a position like that? Can we just?
I mean, it would be a direct correlation. Marvelous achievement to image it. It would not be a Dark Horse project IDW. If we made the thing, the Skybound would be the limit. Is what I'm saying.
Skybound will make anything. Don't worry about that.
Oh, they make the best stuff. They make the best stuff.
You talking about Batgirl kind of stole what I wanted to ask you, because I was going to say, after Consequences, let's say you hit all the goals, you hit all the Kickstarter goals, and you make the full story that you wanted. If like Marvel or DC approaches you, or whatever comic book company, and say, hey, what do you want? Obviously, you already said Batgirl. Is there another choice that you think, man, this superhero doesn't get enough limelight, or this person could get a little bit more love?
There's a lot. I love X-23. And I love so much of that, and exploring her as Wolverine. I think that was a short moment that could have been expanded upon. And by short, I mean, there's several. I also love Dick Grayson as Batman. It's probably my favorite Batman, which some people are going to be mad at me for saying.
But how good was that Batman and Robin run with him and Damian, right?
Got my black and white Batman sculpt right off right off camera of Dick Grayson as Batman. It was beautiful. And then I'd love to, and folks Steve Orlando is doing great work in comics right now and revisiting some of the great new stuff, but also I love his take on characters that are maybe forgotten. But after Guardians 2, the film came out, I think it'd be so fun to play with that old school Guardians team, like in a real, and they've done it. There've been great Guardians comics, but that would be them or 90s X-Force would be my dream team to work on. Cable, nice. Domino, be fun.
That's cool.
Obviously we talk about superheroes a lot on all of our shows, but recently I was having a conversation with Gia that I thought was pretty interesting with Invincible coming out next week. Invincible being a Skybound comic that Greg Miller introduced to me and Nick and Kevin. Fucking loves it. Definitely one of my favorite comics I've ever read. But what makes it so special is, it's a different type of take on superheroes. And that's kind of what I said to my fiance. And she was like, okay, but at this point, like, how is that different from The Boys? How's that different from, and she started naming like different things that we watched. And I just thought it was interesting that like we've hit a point with, back in the day, it was just Watchmen was the alternative. Mm-hmm, and then sometime over the last couple decades when we've gotten so much used to, X-Men and Marvel and the Batman animated series, everything that happened in the 90s, there was kind of like at least some form of mainstream penetration before the movies for these superhero characters, But then now it's almost like it's this mainstream thing to subvert the expectations of it, and that's kind of expected. Is Invincible coming out now as a cartoon going to work for people, or is it going to kind of just feel like, I've seen this before?
Yeah, I love the book so much that I have to hope that it works for people. I think it's the story well executed. And I love that we live in this world where you can have all of those different things. I haven't finished Greg's review of Snyder Cut yet. I saw that pop up this morning as we're recording it.
It's too long. Too long.
Do you remember what we talked about, what we're doing today? It's been a day, my friend.
Yeah. That's true.
But I love that we live in a world where that version of DC can exist, and Zack Snyder's view of who heroes are and how he deconstructs them. Because that's even a deconstruction of the heroes of major IP heroes. They can live alongside kind of a more traditional telling of what Marvel's doing with Tom Holland's Spider-Man right now. And then also all these subversive takes of The Boys where the heroes, the supers, aren't the heroes. Invincible, totally re-examining what it means to be a superhero. There's a book coming out. Oh God, I wish I could say the name of the book, but it's still a secret. There's the Bible. The Bible.
Yeah.
Starring Jesus.
Mel's back, and wow, does he do? Finally,
passion with a vengeance.
But I love that stuff, Tim. I think that you're finding new ways to subvert expectations. And as long as it's quality, it rises to the top. And so I think we're going to see more of it. And then eventually there's room for those traditional hero stories again. Yeah. Like Secret Identity is a great Superman book that kind of does the opposite. It subverts expectations by being an awesome run-of-the-mill Superman origin story, but it does it so perfectly that it feels refreshing. So I like that we aren't tied to 90s X-Men only anymore.
Sure. I also think it's speaking to your point of like what you're trying to accomplish too, right? Where it kind of lives in the gray area. Maybe not so much as where it starts, but what I like about Invincible and what I like a lot about modern comic book storytelling is that people aren't treating it with kitty gloves anymore. We're audiences or readers rather are used to having like sort of moralistic tales where two people are ideologically set against each other. And that's always where a story, to me at least, is most fascinating. That's the strength of Game of Thrones, right? Where you start off and you're like, oh my God, I'm all for this one character, but then when you see the other side, when you see where they're coming from, then and you start to see them be the protagonist in their own story, whereas they're the antagonist to like, the Starks. That's where we get into really, really, you question things in yourself of what you would do in those situations. And I honestly think those are some of the most fascinating stories out there. And I think Marvel's nailed that. I don't think obviously DC quite has in their cinematic universes, but to Tim's earlier question, I think it absolutely can, because I think it's just a good story. Christian nailed it, told well. And I think it's gonna be rad to see it in animated form. So I'm excited for that.
And you all have talked about it too on parts and pieces of this show. I mean, DC's knocked it out of the park in all their animated stuff.
God, every time.
That, so I have it next to me, so I will just show this one. This is just one example, but like Primer is an incredible mid-grade book where this is for kids. So it's like you have this, Frank Miller inspired, or Three Jokers is recent, and just a beautiful re-examination, still technically uncanon, but of those characters of Jason and Red Hood and Joker and what that means. And like, my daughters aren't going to read Three Jokers, but you have things like Primer, I have Anti-Hero next to me as well, are like, there's so much variety. And even just things like Dogman, or Captain Underpants that like gets...
What the hell is Dogman? I'm familiar with Captain Underpants, but who the hell's Dogman?
From the creator of Captain Underpants, it is the premise is a dog and a cop both died at the same time. It's like RoboCop, right?
Awesome.
And the problem is...
Stop. It's awesome. Let's all read this.
Nick's in.
I wish I had them. They're in my daughter's beds because they clutch them. They sleep with them. It's like they have this moment in the first one where it's like, oh no, there's a problem. The cop's head is dead and the dog's body is dead.
God,
let's put the dog's head on the cop's body, and you have this cop that has a dog head on it that is very like Dogman can solve it, and Dogman's like your dog Tim, just walking in a circle. It's beautiful.
I love it.
So I love that
Googling Dogman, be careful with the kids, because this is clearly the kids one. There was also a crime drama movie from 2018 featuring Marcelo's a mild-mannered dog groomer who commits petty crimes for Simo, a former boxer who terrorizes the neighborhood. When Simo's abuse brings Marcelo to the breaking point, he finally decides to take matters into his own hands.
No, that's the one my kids like.
Decidedly different movie.
No, that's the one. That's the one.
My 5-year-old loves that one.
I don't know why. I don't know why that concept reminds me of the interdimensional cable episode of Rick and Morty, where the concept is, Nick, they get to see TV shows that exist in other dimensions, and one of these shows is kind of a procedural crime drama. Not procedural, just sort of like a, I don't know, Miami Vice type show, and the character is Baby Legs, and it's a cop, but his legs are baby's legs.
Jesus.
And so he's like a cop, and they're like making a bus, and they're like, get down, sir. And he kind of like waddles down to the perpetrator, but his little baby legs are just kind of like not really good at balancing and walking. It is
First
phenomenal.
off, send me the link. Second off, this is what I call the kind of humor that makes my wife question why she married me, because I laugh so hard at shit like that you just get this look. Why? Just a general why. That's so great.
Isn't that the episode 2, Andy, where it was all ad-libbed? Where like they just wanted to they went in the booth and they were just like shoot the shit. And that's how they end up.
You
can hear
totally
them cracking
tell.
Up and stuff.
They're like laughing at their own jokes when they're talking about like two brothers out to fight the fucking who gives a shit. You just hear them laughing at their own jokes. Phenomenal episode.
But great Christian, I think that's what I always talk about. Of like, I know we either started talking in this episode about it, or we're talking about it pre-show before we were live, of how lucky we are to be alive right now, and that like we all grew up with the shit where you loved your Dino sheets, but you also loved your one Superman pillowcase or your Ghostbusters, the random thing you could find and get, and now it's everywhere because we grew up and wanted to pull it in that thing. And like to your point of like the fact that DC's animated films are so good and their young adult novels are so good, and they'll put out stuff like Superman versus the Klan, right? Like that is a young adult book that's targeting not the traditional comic fan and also not the traditional I'm in a comic book store thing, right? But it's telling a super traditional Superman story that is about Superman the alien and these immigrants coming to Metropolis or moving in Metropolis, and how they both feel out of place and what they're doing and how they can find themes together there. But that there's just such a wide swath of content that we can all have like this.
Yeah, I mean, golden age is a term within comics, so I don't want to say we're in the golden age of that. Yeah. But maybe the platinum age of this as storytelling. I mean, just even, and I'm not trying to, things get so popular that it's easy to roll your eyes at them and be like, well, it's not that good. But like The Walking Dead on TV is phenomenal. The fact that it is as phenomenal as it is and has run as long as it is phenomenal. And the fact that it's based on such an incredible comic book that Kirkman wrote all those years ago is phenomenal. It's like, we just look at this dearth of things now and you're like, I mean, WandaVision was great, but I don't know, the Vision special effects could have been, I'm like, shut up. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I know.
No, I mean, because that's this, you're talking about Walking Dead like that, like to live through that, right? Where I always talk about like, oh, I remember being, like reading Wizard magazine and they'd mentioned that there was a rumor of a Justice League movie and I couldn't believe it. But like Walking Dead, I mean, in college, getting those graphic novels in my senior year and be like, these are great, like 1 and 2. And then reading it throughout and getting to IGN and being such a Walking Dead fan and it being so niche at the time that Andrew Goldfarb, when he was a fan, got me the San Diego Comic-Con or whatever the hell it was, super exclusive Walker that's head removed with Velcro and mailed it to me. And it was like the only piece of Walking Dead merch that was out, that was available, that existed outside of the books. And now, like, how many times do I walk down a Target aisleway and see all this Walking Dead shit I would never buy, or get press releases about Walking Dead Monopoly or something? I'm like, whatever, who cares?
That's the most insane thing, because I remember on the Game Over Greggy show, which was the precursor to this podcast, in like, I feel like it was before we even left IGN, so it was a long time ago.
So much shitty Game Over Greggy merch at Target.
Yeah, right. You want to talk about something that jumped this shark?
Well, I remember one of the like most what the fuck episodes we did was you trying to make the pitch that you think that Walking Dead is going to be bigger than Star Wars.
I said it was going to be the next Star Wars. It was,
And it was like, are you fucking crazy? And like, how things all shook out. It's like, it didn't quite get to that level, but like it got a lot closer than I would have ever imagined. Like, kudos to you for semi-calling that, because I remember.
Well, keep in mind what my argument was too. We're talking about years and years from now, because Walking Dead, yes, is going to go off TV, but is it going to come back in 15 years? And is it going to, you know what I mean? Like, my thing, if you remember, in the argument was like, it's going to be around in all random ass forms of media for a long time, and I'll be interested to see how long that actually goes.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I just remember you telling me and Nick about the comics, and we were like super listening, like, what happens next? What happens next? And you're like, well, because it was like during the All Out War bit. Like, that's where we're at with the comics coming out month to month. Like, we're so far from that. I mean, the comics are over now.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I just did the Invincible podcast, getting ready for the animated series, and it was the same thing of like dusting off all these memories. Like, I haven't talked about Invincible in so long, and I used to talk about it every month, and to go through and think about where that story is starting with Mark, and like, he's a teenager, and it's like, when I think of Mark Grayson, I think of where the book left him, which I'm not going to spoil, and it's like, man, that is a different thing, and so many people are about to be introduced to that in a brand new way. Yeah.
If I may, and I'm curious if you all have, like, Nick, is there a thing that, like, a fandom that you feel like is being underserved, like, where are you still that kid looking for that shirt that doesn't exist, or are we just oversaturated, we're just spoiled, riches galore, we have everything we want?
I mean, there's definitely untapped like properties, if that's what you're talking about. But
something that you love, that like you're like, I want that. I mean, we don't get to go to Target right now, but like,
I mean, the only thing that I've ever wanted was I want someone to get off their ass and figure out the rights issues with Robotech and make those a movie and then bring that back into the fray, because I feel like if you did the original 33 episode run in 3 movies, it would rival anything out there. It's such a cool story, and it's exactly what we're talking about, which is it takes a character that's pretty much like innocent and throws him into war, and things get just gray, and he grows from it. And like where you look at where that, I love his journey in it. I love the Rick Hunter journey. He starts as this cocky little flyboy and ends up this sort of disenfranchised war hero who realizes that like that's just not the way anymore. And it's like a space opera, and it's epic, and that's just one of those properties. I'm like, I hope to God before I die I get to see that title over on the big screen, just Robotech once, just to see it, because I think everyone would love it. But you got to pick the right people for that bad boy, and it's changed hands about 800 times, so we'll see what happens.
Michael Bay. Yeah.
Not Michael Bay. Please don't let Michael Bay direct it.
Let's add new human characters. Let's add some CG animals. Why not?
It needs. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I would love to see, like a Denis Villeneuve or someone who's just a really, really focus on the story, attack that and just tell those stories, because the actual action and all that stuff, it's really going to tell itself. I mean, transformable mechs in space just blasting each other in epic freaking war escapes with these like giants as bad guys, and like it's the coolest thing ever, and but it has a heart and it has a story, and I'd always love to see that happen. But I guess we'll just keep watching the redos on Amazon.
I've had so much hope with what Netflix and the studios making Castlevania have done, especially with that new. I know they just recently put out a Greek mythology sort of short series, I believe, on Netflix, animated as well by the same studio. And that existing and that being good has given me so much hope to get more things like that. I just really want an Overwatch animated show. I think every animated short Blizzard puts out is a short movie that is as good as anything Pixar does emotionally and good with storytelling, and it's never cheesy or bad. And of course, you have to understand kind of the characters and the backgrounds of the story, but I think Blizzard has such a cash cow with the Overwatch universe, and they haven't fully found a way to just go beyond video games because they keep putting out these shorts, but like what, like they have comics as well, but I want to see it like a bigger form of it, you know.
But it's got to boil down to like how much money they can make off of those things, right? The economics start to play, and they make so much more money off of Overwatch than they ever would making like an animated shorts or animated movies, specifically because the whole reason to make most of these things for studios, and Christian can correct me if I'm wrong, but is to have that synergy over those other properties. When you already have the video game that's making you billions of dollars a year, it's hard pressed to be like, okay, we're going to do like task our cinematics department and for like an entire year to make something really, really cool and put it out in theaters and risk it just dying.
Well, I mean, then you're talking about it like going outside of your own studio, right? Whereas
if you're Blizzard, you don't have to, right? There's cinematics department, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they used to be like unbelievably good at making things. And granted, I guess 2-minute shorts is different than.
But I think it's exactly what you're saying, though. Is the point I'm making? If you wanted to do a feature length, I don't think you would turn to your cinematics team. You would outsource, and then do you lose some of that magic, and you start getting other people involved?
Maybe, right? Yeah.
It's such a hard thing to find. I think these properties that actually can go out and be truly multimedia and can go to different things and not lose something in the transition.
That's why this Last of Us series is going to be so fascinating to look at, because I mean, and again, this is
me as a clicker. Yeah,
of course.
Absolutely. I think you've touched on something very, very important. All of us should be clickers at this point, especially me, for how much that I don't know if you know this, but my Let's Play of The Last of Us 1 inspired the sequel. So it came out like a couple months later, and I was like, you're all welcome.
Yeah. Nick was like, they should really make a second one, and Neil Druckmann was like, you're right.
Done.
That's a great idea. Let me do it.
A month later. Yeah. No, but that's good. That's what's going to be so fascinating, and that's what'll be so cool to talk to the team over at Naughty Dog with. Just be like, hey, how much of this was your input versus how much do you feel the story kind of changed? And obviously, who the hell knows if they're ever going to be able to elaborate on that? But if it turns out well, maybe they will. Maybe they'll be like, hey, it was this really cool collaborative effort, and they stuck to the story and they stuck to these characters, and they did what we wanted them to do. But I'm just fascinated by it. But I mean, dude, if you took Overwatch and said, hey, we're going to bring it to Pixar, does that even feel right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe HBO. Maybe HBO would want to do an official podcast about the show. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. But I think with Naughty Dog, there's that you're going to have a great comparison point between it and the Uncharted movie. Like those are two Naughty Dog properties. And with Last of Us, you have Neil writing it or co-writing it and that talent. And I don't know. I've worked with the studio. I have a lot of friends there, but I don't know what their involvement is with Uncharted. So I'm curious to see that. And Blizzard did WoW or Warcraft. And like that was another like a live action. It didn't do. So I think a lot of it is trusting partners and can someone execute on your vision? And then on the other side of that coin, I'm so excited for Sonic 2. I mean, Sonic was so good. It was so from the reveal of sexy.
Being as good as it was.
No right. The reveal of sexy Sonic legs to the final.
Is that on HBO Max? That's on one of the platforms right now. Right? I think HBO has it.
Yeah, maybe Amazon Prime.
Here's my thing, though.
Maybe Amazon Prime.
Is like I think that there's different lanes that these things can fall into, and it's just like, okay, that's a decent video game movie. Or it's like, oh, that's a good video game movie, or this is just a good movie. And of course, there's a bunch of other things, the bad qualities, but we're just talking about the good here. I think Sonic just falls into like, oh, that's fun and that was good. It's good for a video game movie. It's not a good Sonic movie. Like, there's not that much Sonic in there, but that's fine. I don't think it's possible to make a good Sonic movie for the things that Sonic fans are looking for out of that. And that's okay. Right. And I think that's the difference between Uncharted and Last of Us is that when we're talking about just the story of itself, Last of Us is so good and actually such a great story that just translate that one for one, you're not going to really lose much. Like, it's a great video game, but it's really a great story that happens.
The strength of it is the story,
by video game elements. Whereas with Uncharted, it's kind of like it's just fun to be doing all these like action set PC things. Characters are great, dialogue between them is awesome, but at the end of the day, is it really going to be? It's going to be attempted an Indiana Jones movie. look like in modern times.
Yeah, at best it's Indiana Jones. At best it's Indiana Jones. At worst, it's the movie Sahara starring Matthew McConaughey, and Steve Zahn.
It'll
be silly and
Angelina
fun.
Jolie's Tomb Raider with John
Yeah,
Boyd.
exactly. But I mean, that's where they're really smart, right? Licensing those properties for the various mediums, I think was very smart. I think Uncharted absolutely won a summer blockbuster. I could see us all having fun, sitting, eating popcorn when we're allowed to again, and watching it. If you said The Last of Us was going to be a movie, I'd be like, they can't. They got to make more. It's too much story and too much nuance and character development for me to see in just 2.5 hours. And so when they said it was going to be an HBO series, and HBO, I still stand by. I mean, no disrespect to Netflix or Amazon because they all have great. All the streaming services have really great original content.
They have their gems,
watch Bosch,
for sure, yeah.
For Christ's sake, watch Bosch. But HBO is, to me, the sort of top of the mountain when it comes to something like that. And so if I was doing that level of story with the violence and the heart that they have in it, I would absolutely hope HBO would be the number one that would produce.
God, how good was Chernobyl? How good was
Fuck,
Chernobyl?
it was so good.
Let's talk about how good Chernobyl was after a word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Babbel. Je ne sais quoi. And if you don't know, that means I don't know what. Like the thing that is missing. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know what it's missing, but it's missing it. And I learned that using Babbel, just like Greg Miller's been doing. He's been trying to learn French to be able to, communicate a little bit better with his wife, and it's been going great. Babbel has made the whole process addictively fun and easy with bite-sized lessons that you'll actually use in the real world. Babbel's 15-minute lessons make it the perfect way to learn a new language on the go. Unlike the infamous language classes you took in high school, good riddance. Babbel designs their courses with practical, real-world conversations in mind, things you'll get to use in everyday life, not just trying to find where the library is. Ain't that right, Kevin?
¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
Thank you very much. Their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective. With Babbel, you can choose from 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you to improve your pronunciation and accent. You purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you'll get an additional 3 months for free. That's 6 months for the price of 3. Just go to Babbel.com and use promo code MORNING. That's BABBEL.com, code MORNING for an extra 3 months free. Babbel, language for life. And next up, I want to give a shout out to BetterHelp. In 2021, talking about mental health is finally a thing, and that's why we're excited to be sponsored by BetterHelp Online Theory. Mental health check-in. How are you really? And what do you need right now? Therapy can help you. What is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Get some tools to help with motivation, depression, anxiety, battling your temper, stress, dealing with insecurity in relationships or at work, whatever you need. It's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. One of my good friends has been using this and been having a really great time just because of how easy it is and how private and secure it all is, and you just feel very comfortable with the whole process. You can join the millions of people who are seeing what therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp and Kind of Funny Morning Show listeners. You can get 10% off the first month at betterhelp.com/morning. That's betterhelp.com/morning. betterhelp.com/morning to get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp.
Do we have a sponsor?
Yeah, we're back. That was great. You did a good job. That was a great job. Good job kicking to that. You know what I mean?
You.
I do want to talk about, Chernobyl. It was good. There, we talked about it. What I do want to point out is something that was brought up before we started the show by Christian. John Cusack. Is everybody who's blocked in here by John Cusack? Because Christian, what's the deal with John Cusack?
So to be clear, I'm not going to take credit for this. We were talking about blocked on Twitter, and then I think I
mentioned that.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, this was like a year or two ago that people started noticing I'm blocked by John Cusack on Twitter. Why is John Cusack blocking me? And I happened to Google, and it says he tweets out last year, November 16th, 2020, says, "Hey, if I blocked anyone nice by mistake, the bot armies of Mordor are out after me in full force." This does not seem like it was on his own volition. This seems like just be some weird act of blocking happening.
Cusack. He doesn't know enough about Twitter to be blocking massive amounts of people. This is totally a screw up on someone else's end.
No, it's not a screw up. It said he just signed up for one of those things, and it said, "Oh, we'll block these people. We'll block people who do X, Y, and Z, or have had contact with X, Y, and Z."
I know you're saying that, but not blocked. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Oh,
I think the system works. I'm not blocked by John Cusack either.
I am blocked, and I know exactly why I blocked. And I've been on blocklist. I've been on blacklist for years, just because of just drama I've been involved in over the last couple of years, and because of all that, yeah. And I mean, that's why Tim Schafer blocked me, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then he hit me up. He's like, "Hey man, I'm sorry. Like, I just noticed you're blocked. I don't want to block you. Like, that sucks." And I'm like, "Yeah, this fucking sucks." But it is what it is.
That's unfortunate, Tim.
You know what, Tim? I'm gonna block Tim Schafer right now, just for you.
No, we should block John Cusack. I mean, swing back that way.
Yeah, I mean, John Cusack.
Here's the thing: I would love to, but John Cusack does not. He's not blocking me, so I'm not.
Really? Wow, Nick. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, Andy, I slacked you about that about 4 hours ago.
Must love dogs must not be blocked. Yeah.
Here's the deal about John Cusack, man. I love John Cusack, and I love John Cusack for one. I love John Cusack for one reason only: Gross Point Blank. I love that movie so much. That is all.
That is all.
Okay.
Please don't block.
And all the movies he did in the 80s. He was great in all those movies.
I wonder if there's like a site you can go to find out who has you blocked. You know,
I think on this one, ignorance is bliss for me, Tim. I don't want to know people that have me blocked. I don't know.
I want to know specifics.
For me or for you?
Check it out. Here's an article from 2020 from BuzzFeed. It says people are sharing celebs that have them blocked on Twitter. Oh no, but this isn't an auto blocking thing. This is just Bert Kreischer saying Gene Simmons blocked him. This is fantastic. This is just like celebrities saying like, "Oh yeah, Gordon Ramsay blocked me."
Yeah, I'm looking at. There's an article here from Business Insider, but it's written for like my mom. Or just if you want to know if you've been blocked, go to that person's profile. Like,
that's a good way to know.
That's not helpful in any stretch of the imagination.
If you want to see if your kid blocked you on social, go to their profile.
Can you see your child on social?
This would be Somebody replied to Bert Kreischer saying that Flo from Progressive blocked him.
That's great. That's great. I'll be honest with you guys. I think the only person who's ever that I know of that's blocked me on social media is Kevin. Kevin's the only person that I've ever known that's blocked me on something. And to this day, I went to look at the picture of him with the straightened Jesus hair that he just did and couldn't see it. Had to have Joey's phone record it and send it to me.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things when someone puts an image out and says, "Don't insult me in this image," you should listen to that. You know, read the comments. I didn't insult
you. I was just telling people the truth that you think you're Gryffindor. You think you're Gryffindor. That's all I'll say. You think you would get sorted in Gryffindor.
I am a Gryffindor. You muggle.
I'm just saying. Andy, you know?
Slytherin right there. Yeah.
You just Slytherin, bitch. That's a fun gift.
No, we can't bring that joke back. No, we can't bring because the community takes it way too far.
They go so hard.
So Christian, what happened is we all kind of agreed. Kevin's a Slytherin. He was like, "I'm not a Slytherin. I'm a Gryffindor." And then
and again, he took the test in front of us and on Potter. What is it? Pottermore.com. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Pottermore. And I'll be damned. Honestly, he got Gryffindor. I also got Ravenclaw. We're not going to talk about that. It was a dark week for me. Okay.
What's wrong with Ravenclaw?
But I'm just saying if this is Kevin and I don't put it, I wouldn't say Kevin's not capable of hacking Pottermore and making it so that he got Gryffindor every single time. Just saying that. That's all I'm saying.
I can imagine him getting to the sorting hat and be like, "You better fucking put me in Gryffindor. You better put me in Gryffindor."
But like that's the thing. The sorting hat,
like threatening the sorting hat's family.
Like the sorting hat would be like, "All right, dude, you're cool. All right, go."
Yeah, but not when you brought out a knife and were like, "I will stab your mother." This is the mother sorting hat. If you don't, they'd be like, "This dude's
it's a sombrero."
That's a classic Gryffindor move, though.
Yeah,
just stabbing someone when they're when their back is turned to you. Yeah.
But look, all I'm saying is the reason that you're blocked is your own goddamn fault. You know what I mean? Like I am not ready for you, just like you're not ready to drop it. You just gave me shit right now on air.
I'm not.
So there it is. Go fuck yourself.
I'm so over it. I'll make fun of you.
I didn't give you shit. I just pointed out. I was just saying the specifics for everyone who was not familiar with this particular argument that you and I are apparently continuing to have. I let it go months ago.
You
if
let
not years ago.
You don't get to let it go. Like you're not in the position holding anything.
You're the back person in the story
here.
Kevin, I forgave you months ago for your part in this drama.
I did nothing wrong except for
I just want you to know I'm being the bigger man. I'm being the bigger man.
I got you know, as an outside observer with no skin in the game, I gotta say, yeah, Nick's being the bigger man right now. Kevin.
How proud of you?
Go
How
really
proud of you,
far
man?
if you unblock
That's
them.
fine. No,
just like
fine.
he let this go.
Greg, it's fine. I'll just block Greg too. It's fine.
I want
for the
to.
record, I didn't know that was something. I need to see the tortoise pics. Please don't block me.
I want to circle back really quick because I honestly thought we'd have a lot more in the tank for John Cusack. We didn't. That's fine. We didn't have a whole lot.
I'll talk about John Cusack all day.
We didn't have
dude.
a whole lot more, and that's totally fine. That's on me. I thought it'd be a well of content right there. But like I talked about hoping that Overwatch has this big thing. Greg, are there any properties that you think similar to Nick saying that he wished
at this point, for
Robotech?
me to enter into this conversation, I feel like I'd just be insulting everything I've gotten. Again, I can legitimately, distinctly remember laying on my bed, reading Wizard magazine, rumors of the Justice League, and looking up at my JLA Grant Morrison run mobile that I got when my comic book store closed down, spin around and being, because I mean, remember, of course, like when I was growing up, the Justice League was not the Justice League you think of. It was, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, and they had a lot of great adventures, but they weren't the book you necessarily wanted to read. So it was
Blue Beetle, the Mexican guy.
Yeah, the second one of them.
He's getting a film too, and it sounds incredible from the talent they're lining up for it. So we can't even complain about not having a
right. Yeah, I think it was last week I talked about the Play School figures, right, or what the Imaginext things of all the different things. So it's like for me to sit here and be like, I want I'm like. Now that Invincible's on the tip of everybody's tongue again, right? Like for some reason, that tweet of me freaking out the day that Invincible got announced is come back around, where people are retweeting it and liking it again.
That was my first day in the office.
Wow, you picked a great day. You're the good luck charm. You know what I mean? Look at this. Ever since you got here, everything's been.
But I thought it was going to be a live action movie. I didn't think.
Well, yeah, they still say they're doing it, but I think back to Nick's point, where I think
they don't need
the animated series makes so much more sense for Invincible, where it's
better.
like. As detailed as those relationships are, and that book is all about people's character growth, I'd much rather have multiple seasons of it rather than try to shove it together by a 2-hour movie every 3 years.
But again, the thing that I'm so stuck on, I keep bringing this up, but I want people to understand how crazy this is. This is an hour-long animated show. Like, we don't get that ever. Like, they obviously give a shit and are going to try to give us real deep character development like we saw in the comics. Like, this is a commitment. This is a choice for them to be like, we need to tell this right, and there's only one way to do it. And that's so cool. Hopefully. I haven't seen it, but I'm hoping that that's the case.
Yeah, Kevin, if you guys I just kicked you the morning show clip. That's again still getting kicked around right now. 2,500 likes, more than 100K views on the video. Can you just rewind to the very front? Because me.
This is why we don't have wheels on our chairs.
Oh my god!
What?
Like,
Jesus.
that's legitimate. Like,
face.
I never thought in my life I would see Invincible on some main, like Seth Rogen, who responds to this tweet, that I would see that him, making an Invincible thing insane. Thank you. You don't have to watch the whole thing. It's just me freaking out. I'll retweet it for you right now. Everybody.
Every time you kick the chairs back, I always be like, "Thank God we took the wheels off."
Yeah, no,
remember,
that might be the first thing I posted on Instagram when I was in the studio. I think like my first thing of like my first day of work, and it was the video from just kind of like the back room, the entrance area, just looking at the set.
I miss that. I miss Andy creeping around the corner and filming us, and me having that one moment of being like, why is he doing that? What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do with that?
Yeah, but see, Nick, Nick goes into this like 2-track mind. It's either, okay, should I like dial this back or triple down?
Yeah,
I triple down. And then Andy like puts his phone away because Andy's like, too far, Nick.
I don't know what Andy wants from me. Okay, I'm just saying as a point of feedback for when he directs me, like, you got to give me a little feedback, right? Do you want rated R? Or
just be responsible,
Not my strong suit. I gotta be honest with you, you may have cast the wrong person.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, John Cusack.
John Cusack. I love those honest to God reactions. Like we all live in a world now of like reaction videos, and they're very
terrible thumbnails, and they're
close your mouth.
very performative.
Soy boy,
you fucking soy boy. God,
they're so like I'm not
soy boy.
I'm very big on stage when that was a thing I could do, like stand up. I'm very physical, but like when consequence, like I was doing a Lego stream, just trying to capture a hand, like a top down cam, a test out, just building the Razor Crest. And
no big deal. Yeah.
it's like 10 people. It's late. I'm just doing a thing. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'll talk about the Kickstarter. I'll just pull it up here. And that's when I saw it funded, was like an honest, and I was like,
oh, that's awesome.
Then I realized the inception moment of like, oh shit, I'm making a reaction video. I was like, I wish this wasn't happening live. Oh, no.
Yeah, but a genuine reaction is great. That's totally fine. I'm always a little bit weirded out when people do those and like they try to recreate the emotion and stuff like that. You know, you're like, I can tell you're trying to act here a little bit.
But that's why I love that you guys. I mean, you might not, or your friends or significant others might not. But I love the breadth of content you're putting out, because I feel like over the years, we've gotten so many great honest to God reaction videos from you all, because you're in studio in the moment doing things when stuff happens, and you're able, you're all like live reacting. A lot of folks, it's like you're on camera and like nothing's going to happen. Like it needs to be like breaking news. But I love the in the moment, in the zeitgeist moment of those things. So just as a fan, thank you for those, because that Invincible moment's great. But there's been many like, hey, we're doing the mornings. What happened? What did Sony just say? That are just so fun for fans to see.
There's
and
the
witness.
fantastic one of when Sony pulls out E3 and somebody says it pull up. I'm like, no, impossible. I go back to the show before it actually breaks his real like, no,
Last of Us 2 getting delayed. Me and Bless finding out in real time at the very end of Games Daily. We were signing off. Like I think we've already said goodbye, and it happened, and it was just we just had a death on camera. It was horrible. But yeah, it's funny with the live reaction stuff. Obviously, everyone in the comments is going to have their opinion one way or another. Like I get excited about things that I like, and I have now spent a decade at least seeing comments of people being like, "It's a fake reaction." It's like all these motherfuckers right here know me that it's not a fake reaction. But the thing that people need to understand is we know this and we designed it this way. Like Greg and I specifically ask our PR connects to not tell us about things that we're going to be excited about. Like, tell me when to be there. Tell me like to, to record my reaction, but like, do not let me know what's happening, because then I'm not going to react. Like I have never faked a reaction for that type of stuff, and I'm not going to, because that's what the fuck's the point of that? It's stupid, especially when there's so many things to react to, like, and get hyped about. It's a great time to be alive. My answer to the question of what would I bring back, it's nothing. There's a couple things I'd redo, but we've just gotten so much. I'm sure all the things I want to redo will get redone at some point.
That's a hard question too, though, because it's like, I think, Greg, to your point as well, like we've had so many things. It's like, when is a gift horse? Like Coming to America 2. I love everybody in that.
Let's talk about it.
You're getting into monkey's paw territory. I'm like, I'd love more.
I know what I'm stepping into. I'm glad it exists. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know when we ask for, exactly. It's monkey. It's like, what do you wish for? Like, oh, I really wish someone would make a new
Bowfinger.
Wow. No, don't put that out.
Maybe
Eddie Murphy put that out.
Maybe Eddie Murphy's asked for that, but I don't think anybody else has ever asked for that.
Well, the thing is, for me, like translating it to video games and Nintendo, I think is really easy. I want a new F-Zero. I want a new Star Fox, but I just don't want a new one. I want a good one, and like that is, I feel like asking for too much. F-Zero, I think, might have a better chance, but even then, in the way that video games are in 2021, what does an F-Zero game look like full price? I don't know. I don't know if that can even work. And like Star Fox is even more of a question mark. But like, I don't just need to see it coming to America. Like, I'd rather get something good out of it. And every once in a while, we get a Bill and Ted 3.
Oh, so good.
Bill and Ted 3. Oh god.
Well, that's, I had a nightmare months ago, right? I had that nightmare of like, I finally got to see Ghostbusters Afterlife and it was bad. You know what I mean? Like, my heart can't take that. Like, you want to do your reboot Ghostbusters and that's terrible. I could have told you it's going to be terrible. Get the fuck out of here. But the idea that they get as much as the cast back together as they can and that movie's going to be garbage, I'm like, oh god, please don't let it happen. Please. You know what I mean? We didn't need to do this.
Yeah.
But speaking of getting everything you ever wanted, I forgot my father sent me Superman Power Clean wipes for my computers and things. I'm wiping down my iPad, and let me tell you.
And of course you're using them. Of course you're like, I have to use these immediately. God bless you.
They've been here a while, Nick. Don't worry. You know what I mean? You're not the EM Tech screen wipes power clean police. I'll use them whenever I want to.
You know what? You don't know that I'm not an undercover EM Tech's power screen police officer that just has been fucking deep undercover.
Listen,
in this organization
those have been discontinued.
They've
been discontinued for years.
You don't know me. Man, Coming to America 2 was such an interesting... Eddie Murphy right now is just in such an interesting place with all these like reboots that he's doing, or like not reboots, but like sequels, right? Because I think they're still working on Beverly Hills Cop 4. And he's doing something else too with one of his old properties. This is the disappointing thing with me is that I think that Eddie Murphy is trying to step back into where he was in the 80s, but he's not that same person anymore. And he doesn't have that same edge, and he's not willing to take those same risks with his career that were provocative and polarizing that got him to where he is. But what I wish people would tell him is that you don't have to. You may, like, if you haven't seen it, go watch Dolomite Is My Name. It's a great place for Eddie Murphy to be in his career right now. It's still edgy, but it's a movie that embraces today and like the modernism today, and doesn't need to necessarily feel the need to apologize for what happened in the 80s, which is kind of what a little bit of Coming to America 2 does. And so I'm just like, I just question, like, listen, if you told me you want to get together with your friends again and make another Coming to America, I'm like, cool, go for it. I'll support this, right? But that has to be all it is, because otherwise, tell a different story. You're Eddie frickin' Murphy. You've got all these resources. Anyone will fund your shit at this point, I have to imagine. So I'm not excited for that. I'm not excited for the next Beverly Hills Cop, because I saw Beverly Hills Cop 3, and I know that everything he does is going to be Beverly Hills Cop 3. That was a movie that was made way too late in the game. He was totally the wrong person to be making that movie. They should have never done it. And it was PG-13, which is like, you don't make a freaking Beverly Hills Cop movie PG-13. Come on.
Or Coming to America
Coming to America for that matter. Yeah. Which I think this.
Have you all done like there's been great retrospectives on Beverly Hills Cop 3, but like if you haven't, highly recommend. I mean, the animosity on set was apparently like so high, where most of the shots where you don't see Eddie's face, it's not Eddie. There's a lot of ones instead of twos, because Eddie was in his trailer, because he was the early green screening of when he's on the Ferris wheel or whatever. Like, so much about that movie shouldn't. To me, Beverly Hills Cop 3 is somehow so many of the movies that got made in the mid 2010s made back then, and that it was like a mistake. Back too late. People didn't have their heart in it. Bad idea. But no one looked at that movie and were like, we shouldn't do that. Instead, people looked at it and they were like, let's do a bunch of those.
Yeah, let's do a bunch more of those. But you know what's funny is I forget the name of the book. Wild and Crazy Guys is the book that I read. Elise Willems recommended it for me because she knows we have very the same sensibilities when it comes to that stuff. But it's a movie that follows a lot of the comics or the comedic talents in the 80s and how they sort of changed the face of comedy in movies. And one of the things they talked about was they interviewed John Landis, and he talked about working with Eddie Murphy on the difference between working with Eddie Murphy on Trading Places and working with Eddie Murphy on Coming to America was night and day. And the Eddie Murphy that was coming in through the 80s was a megastar, showed up with an entourage, and the guy that showed up on Trading Places was just this young kid, fresh out of like his first season with Saturday Night Live, and was like, I am ready to work. I will do whatever it takes. And he was fun on set and all this stuff. And he's like, I just got a totally different person with Coming to America. And I think that it's weird to me that to see Eddie Murphy sort of come full circle and try to sort of, I guess, reconnect with that original person, because he wanted to do stand-up again too. And I'm like, we don't need another, like, I just don't see you getting necessarily back in touch with what humanity needs right now from a stand-up special, but
I'm here for it. I'm here for it if he can do it. But yeah, I mean, you meant Dave.
I mean, you know how it is though, right? Like, it's
hard, but Chris Rock, I think, did a great job. Dave,
but he never stopped, right? Like, Dave never stopped. Like,
he did though. That's what Dave stopped for a long time, and he came back, I think, stronger because of it, because of the media story around what happened to him in Comedy Central. And I think so much of what he's been telling since is in a reaction to that. So I don't know what Eddie's re-examination is of that. My stand-up career's, I'm not even going to, nowhere near close to any of those folks.
I mean, you're kidding me?
You're usually
doing
number
Zoom
3
shows right now.
Nowhere. I was in Beverly
Eddie Murphy,
Hills
Dave Chappelle, Christian Spicer.
Thank you for proper order. The list is just much longer, and you skipped over everyone else.
There's an ellipses there.
Yeah.
But I think such an important part of it is relatability. And I think a lot of times folks get so successful that they lose that relatability. Love him or hate him, Dane Cook was very relatable early.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this period, and he had some awful stuff happen in his life. He lost his parents, and I think there was embezzlement with like
I think his brother or someone stole a bunch of money from him.
Don't wish that on anyone. But there was really a part, again, just my opinion, of his career where he was still hitting on all cylinders, but his jokes were about things that only Dane experiences.
Right.
And so then you lost that. And then he reconnected. He did a smaller tour. Again, I'm not going to win you over on whether or not you like Dane's style of comedy. But
Tim, get on the Dane Cook bandwagon. Come on, let's go, bro.
That's why I'm here. This show is to get you on board. But he reconnected with something that people can experience. So if Eddie can do that, I'm here for it. But if not, and she's not a no-name, I'm not like recommending this up-and-comer, but if he's not, Tiffany Haddish is here. Like there are comics out there that are just slaying, that are relatable, that are edgy, that are pushing envelopes. Bill Burr, again, not a no-name comic, like top of his game.
Yeah.
But like that stuff is happening. And if Eddie doesn't want to do it, great, step aside. But man, I'd love for him to come out swinging.
Here's the big problem we're going to see, right? Is that Eddie, I don't think he's at a place where he wants to do what Dave did. When Dave came back with those first few, Little Rust was on those, right? And he still is taking a lot of flack for some of the stuff in there that I feel was a little underdeveloped, specifically a lot of the more polarizing stuff. I know how I feel when I step back on stage, even after having been gone for a month. And I'm obviously not nearly as talented, and nobody expects nearly as much from me as they do Eddie Murphy. So like, it's got to be terrifying to think I just got to go to the store and start working through, right? Or the Comedy Cellar and just start working through with all these young bucks who are going to come up being like, I'm going to be so much funnier than Eddie Murphy right now. You're not even going to fucking know. God, it's got to be intimidating.
Yeah. You have your own legacy to compete with. And when your legacy is Eddie's, yeah. The best of the best.
Man, I used to love Dane Cook. I thought it was just like, that was just high school and
Employee of the month, man.
This is the funniest dude I've ever seen. I remember just walking around high school with with it on my iPod Mini. Like it was just the coolest shit, and I just couldn't believe. And then Vicious Circle came out, and he was like the biggest celebrity in the world at that time. Like there was nobody bigger than Dane Cook, and it's wild because I remember. Somebody else that fell off for very good reasons. Louis C.K. had him on an episode of the show back when he was still doing his show, and it was all about. It was first off weird to see Dane Cook in that light because this is way past his prime. This is way past all of the good stuff that he'd done in his career, and it was. I think they had a rivalry at one point, and they
stole a joke. The allegation is that Dane stole one of Louis' jokes, and that's what they did on Louis. They talked about that real life issue, and it was wild to see Dane address it in a scripted way, but also like to see Dane not as the biggest dick in the neighborhood. Like he was small in that scene and just kind of being yelled at by Louis. It was very different.
It was very weird, yeah. So like seeing that part of him after seeing him surrounded in an arena was, it just felt like, wow, I didn't know.
Is that what happened to Dane Cook? Is that where he fell off, or did it just comedy?
I think he did some bad. No, I think he did some bad movies, and that killed his celebrity.
But isn't that, with all due respect, isn't that what happens to every comedian? Chairman of the board, but Carrot Top bounced back stronger than ever. Literally, he can bench press a car.
Well, little do we know, we're gonna see Christian Spicer as a clicker, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, terrible show."
Here's
like,
the end of this.
I'll step out then. But if every comic gets terrible movies, then 10,000th, 221st on the list, I will take my terrible movie. Thank you.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? If someone called me up right now and was like, Nick, we need you to start Employee of the Month 2, I'd be like, let's fucking go. Call up Jessica Simpson, see if she's available. Let's get this done.
Waiting 3?
No, I would do Waiting 3, sure. But I would do I would do my experience Waiting, where everyone was horrible and everyone was always having sex with each other and everyone was doing cocaine.
I mean, that sounds like Waiting 1, but okay.
That's fair. Well, then it'd be a great sequel.
A big problem with like what we're talking about here about like these people that used to be the it thing and then like lost over time. It's just you either start doing movies, then you become too big of a celebrity. So not only you're not relatable, but at that point it's not stand-up comedy anymore. You're kind of just doing a panel at PAX, but in front of people, where it's like the audience is there to just cheer and make noise no matter what you're doing up there. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that could be entertaining. Just go be
That's
entertaining
a good point, Tim.
for
Good
an
point.
hour. Thank you very much.
So funny. He's so tall.
But the issue is when they don't do that, when they are like, I am just going to, make jokes that are my takes on the jokes that all the other contemporary stand-up comedians are doing. It kind of just feels like Me Too shit. Not the bad Me Too. The
me also. Me as well.
Me as well.
Yeah.
The Me as well movement.
Well, that was what was so disappointing about Louis, right? Was that Louis was one of the 10 comics out there that was just really still kind of dedicated to the craft of stand-up. And when he'd do specials, you were like, God, this guy, no one really thinks and writes like him. And that's why it's really sad that he did what he did, and his career is where it is. But although he is still touring, and I think he's still selling out venues. But that's why when I look at it, I'm like, we live in a great time where you can just be a stand-up, and you can be a stand-up, and you can do a podcast, and you can have a following, and you don't feel the need to go out and do movies for exposure. So I think that's changed stand-up a lot, and I think that's helped like guys like Dave Chappelle, where he's just he's a megastar, and he can just
talking
do
about
his own
Louis
thing.
Is a choice of words, I think.
I apologize. Yeah, well, no pun intended on that one. But yeah, I don't know. Like you mentioned Bill Burr, and I think he's obviously one of the guys that's just like top of his game, and he's in movies, and he does stuff like that. But I think if you were to ask Bill Burr what he is, he'd say he's a stand-up comic. And I think that's.
I'd say he's the best character in The Mandalorian, but
I absolutely think that. And I just watched not Garden State, what the hell, King of Staten Island the other night. I popped it on, and I was like, dude, he's good in this. It's a good movie.
He is really good in that.
Yeah, he did a really good job in that. So
I think stand-up is tricky, and I think fame is tricky. Having not been there ever myself, but being in the scene enough to see it in folks, just longevity is hard. Like. One Dane, it's been 12 months. My last in-person show was March 13th, 2020. I remember going to the Comedy Store and on my way there on the phone with my wife being like, I don't think I want to do this. Like, this feels, it's okay. I'll do the show. I had my handy Sanny, right after.
Yeah.
It's been over a year. But being part of that and just being able to be there, one, Dane still crushes. Again, I'm not going to win you over. Either it's for any comic. But like, folks are still out there.
Dane's had he's said multiple times he's addressed the stuff. Like, I think I heard him on Rogan. He was just like, there's just lots of stuff that happened to him, and not making excuses for his bad behavior. But he's not. It's not like he's been like. And this is no disrespect, like, not really comparison, but it's not like it's Carlos Mencia where he's just like still. Never addressed it and never going to the fact that he's like, he has got some transgressions he's got to make up for. But sorry, continue. I interrupted you.
Fame, like pick your band, or even the MCU. I mean, it hasn't yet, but they can't keep being great, right?
How dare you? Sir.
Surely they can't.
At some point, like Dane, I think at the time he had the longest running, he beat the streak for Madison Square Garden selling out. Like, you can't.
Jesus.
Whether it's Knights Clay. Now Tiffany Haddish, and like you can't maintain Eddie before at some point. Aside from kind
your
of
star
funny,
starts to fade. Right? Yeah. Well, even Tiffany, right? Like she's. I don't know. I don't follow her that closely, but I know that she's had a couple movies that didn't do so well, her last couple. So I wonder if that's what starts the crest, and then you see the star fade, and then she mellows back out to like where she's going to be as a comic. I don't know.
It's so wild. I don't know. I can't. I love the Beastie Boys documentary on Apple TV Plus as they kind of talk about Paul's Boutique.
Watch that.
It's so good. And like they talk about Paul's Boutique and what it was for them then and kind of what it's become a little bit. And it's like, even then, like that was a failure of a sophomore album. And now it's one of the best
one. Yeah.
Time. I just don't know how you maintain. Again, I think you drink the blood of Kevin Feige and you just cross your
You do. Oh my God.
That's the way to do it.
Absolutely do that.
Christian, one last time, thank you for coming on the show. You're sticking around for the post show we're doing on patreon.com/kindafunny, of course. But before that, you want to give the pitch one more time for Consequences?
Yeah, great. It's a comic book that I put my heart and soul into. You can find the link at my website, christianspicer.com or kindafunny.com/Christian. Was that it?
Nailed it.
Yeah. It's up on Kickstarter. It's funded. It's coming out. As Greg showed, the book's done. So there's always risks, but it's done. The pages are there. This is just getting it out into production. It'd mean the world to me if you went to Kickstarter and backed it. If you read through it and believe in it, the links to all the artists that worked on it are there. But the book's the pitch, and it's about Cara Diol and her violent actions in her past and the repercussions that those have for her future, and kind of confronting that world. And I love it. It's, John Wick, Daredevil hallway scene. It's that brutal, grounded action with characters that hopefully stick with you for a while. So it'd mean the world to me if you supported it. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be here and shooting the shit with you all. This is a dream come true.
Oh, man, anytime. You know that. You're always welcome here. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Kind of Funny podcast. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather around these microphones, each bringing their bullshit to bullshit with you about bullshit. If you like bullshit, head over to patreon.com. I'm adding more bullshit.
Where do I go for it?
Oh, man, I'm sick of all this real life. Where do I get some bullshit?
Please give me some bullshit.
I hope they're mad at dinosaurs with feathers again. Patreon.com/kindoffunny to be part of the show with your topics. To watch live, just like Game Jumper X is, The Lou is, Mike L is, Madeline Stanley is. Of course, if you have no bucks toss our way, it's no big deal. You can get each and every episode chock full of ads and no post show on youtube.com/kindoffunny, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe each and every week, twice a week. Of course, if you like Christian, like we said, kindoffunny.com/Christian, but also check out DLC, a podcast he does with Jeff Canada.
Which I realized I was on DLC. It must have been like exactly a year ago. Like maybe like give or take a week. Because it was at the time I was on it with you, it was like we were still having the conversation of like, this is a crazy thing, but like, I wonder if it's going to affect anything. And then boom.
And the world ended.
Yeah.
DLC is the intimidating podcast because they'll send you to run a show and you're like, oh man, you guys really planned this.
Oh, you guys really planned shit.
We have a run a show, but it's more of just suggestion. If we start talking about somebody we hate in the chat,
Cusack.
we'll keep going that way. Yeah, exactly.
Christian DM'd me like 5 minutes before we went live. He's like, hey, are we still good for today? And I was like, oh shit, yeah. Here's the Discord thing. I was like, I assumed Greg was going to give it, but like honestly, I shouldn't have assumed that. So
if Tim books the guest, Tim takes care of it. That's my thing. Greg brings the guest. If you bring the person to the table, you take care of it.
That was me being very anal, rolling out of another. I was like, I can do it at 2:00. Like that's not. Yeah,
sure.
I'm gonna pack. And I was like, it's 2:55. What am I
doing? Ladies and gentlemen, we got a post show to do on patreon.com/kindoffunny. But until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.